He shoved my graduation cake off the table. Frosting splattered across the deck, candles scattering like fallen stars. Then my sister's 11-year-old son, Cody, grinned up at me and said, "Eat it off the floor, Aunt Tiana." The whole table erupted. Cousins doubled over. Uncles slapped their knees. My mother, she laughed loudest of all, head thrown back like I'd just told the funniest joke she'd ever heard. I stood there, cake knife trembling in my hand, wondering how love could twist into something so vicious. I didn't say a word. Just set down the knife, untied my apron, and walked through the sliding glass door while their laughter chased me into the Phoenix heat. That night, Mom's text burned across my screen. "We've decided to sever all contact. Stay away forever." My sister Kelsey hearted it. I typed one line back. And that's when everything changed. The backyard looked like something ripped from a home magazine. String lights crisscrossing between the mesquite trees, the scent of carne asada drifting through the desert twilight. From the outside, it was the perfect family gathering. But standing there with a red Solo cup sweating in my palm, I could feel it, that razor-thin layer of tension nobody dared name. My mother, Beverly, floated between guests in her turquoise sundress, playing the gracious host. My sister Kelsey held court at the center table, practically glowing in a white eyelet romper. Her son Cody perched beside her like a crown prince, soaking up attention that had never, not once, been mine. "Tell us about the California trip," someone called out. Kelsey laughed, tossing her highlighted hair. "Oh my God, it was incredible. Mom insisted we stay an extra week at her timeshare in San Diego." Mom waved a hand, feigning modesty. "Well, they work so hard. They deserve nice things." I smiled the way you do when you know it's expected. No one asked about Denver. No one asked about my software engineering degree from Colorado State, the one I'd earned while working 2 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night. On the corner of the folding table sat my cake, white buttercream, purple lettering reading "Congrats Tiana" in swirling script. Shoved between a bag of tortilla chips and someone's sweating beer bottle. Every time someone squeezed past, they bumped it, tilting it dangerously. Like it didn't matter if it survived the night or not. I stared at that cake longer than I should have. Because it looked familiar, beautiful, ignored, forgotten in plain sight. A gust of hot wind rattled the string lights. For half a second, I thought maybe this time would be different. Maybe they'd surprise me. Maybe someone would raise a toast. Say they were proud. Then Cody sprinted toward the table, eyes glinting with that particular brand of childhood cruelty. His voice sliced through the conversation. "Aunt Tiana, Mom says you only got your degree so you can brag about being smarter than everyone." The laughter that followed felt like broken glass. Mom didn't correct him. Kelsey hid her smirk behind her margarita glass. I thought about every time I'd been told to share, to sacrifice, to be the strong one. The one who didn't need help. The one who didn't complain. My throat tightened, but I forced it down. When Cody's small hands shoved that cake off the edge, everything slowed. The ceramic plate shattering. Frosting exploding across my sandals. Everyone gasping, then laughing again, harder this time. I stood frozen, still gripping the knife I'd been using to serve slices. No one told him to apologize. Not even my father, Raymond, scrolling through his phone at the far end of the table. The last thing I remember clearly was my mother's voice, light and dismissive. "Oh, come on, Tiana. Don't be so sensitive." I set the knife down, walked toward the back gate. Every footstep echoed too loud against the wood planks. Their laughter followed me like a soundtrack to a party I'd never really been invited to. Outside, the Phoenix night pressed hot against my skin. I got in my Honda Civic and drove away without saying goodbye. For the first time in my life, I didn't cry. I just knew something inside me had finally shattered beyond repair, and there was no going back after tonight. I drove for hours that night, headlights cutting through empty Arizona highways. My hands strangled the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. The laughter kept replaying, plates shattering, Cody's high-pitched giggles, Mom's voice echoing, "Don't be so sensitive." By the time I reached my apartment in Denver, it was past 2 a.m. The city sprawled quiet and cold, snow beginning to dust the streets. I dropped my keys on the counter, kicked off my ruined sandals, and collapsed into the silence. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. For one stupid second, I thought maybe, just maybe, it would be an apology. But when I opened it, the words cut cleaner than any blade. We've decided to sever all contact. Stay away forever. A few seconds later, a little purple heart popped up beside it. Kelsey's reaction. I stared at my reflection in the black screen, hollow-eyed, exhausted. My chest didn't tighten. I didn't cry. I just sat there, numb, like my body had finally stopped pretending it could still feel. I opened my laptop. Blue light flickered across the dark room. The cursor blinked on an old spreadsheet, my budget tracker. 2 rows stared back at me. Parents' mortgage, $475 per month. Kelsey's Dodge Durango, $680 per month. Both loans co-signed by me. Both payments automatically withdrawn from my account every month for the last 4 years. I'd signed those papers because Mom had said, "You're the responsible one, sweetheart. Just help family out." Back then, it felt like love. Now it looked like chains. The snow outside thickened. Flakes hit the window in uneven rhythms, like a clock counting down to something inevitable. I scrolled through my messages. Years of polite thank yous, guilt-laced reminders, hollow promises. Just until Kelsey's boutique takes off. Your dad's between contracts again. We'll handle payments next month. Next month never came. The weight in my chest shifted. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was clarity. I opened a new message and began typing, slowly, each letter deliberate, each word like a door slamming shut. Removing my name from every loan tomorrow. No emojis. No explanation. I hit send. The phone chimed once, then fell silent. I placed it face down on the table. The snow softened outside. I poured myself a glass of water and watched condensation slide down the side. For the first time, silence didn't feel like surrender. It felt like control. They had wanted me gone? Fine. But this time, they were the ones who would feel the absence. Morning came grey and bitter, the kind of Denver dawn that makes everything look stripped bare. I brewed coffee and watched steam curl from the mug, thinking how easily things end, not with screaming, but with a single text message. I hadn't slept, but I felt wide awake. The exhaustion had burned itself out, leaving only a strange, cold calm. By 9 a.m., my phone started buzzing non-stop. Mom. Dad. Kelsey. Unknown numbers with Phoenix area codes. 127 missed calls. The family group chat exploded. You've gone too far. Do you know what you're doing to us? We raised you. Fed you. Paid for things. Not one message said, "I'm sorry." I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled on a grey sweater, tied my hair back, and opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing. Mountain Ridge Credit. Mr. Harrison met me in a quiet consultation room with cream walls and a single succulent on the desk. He was in his late 50s, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Miss Caldwell," he said, offering a firm handshake. "I reviewed the documents you sent over. I think I understand what's happening here." I sat across from him, hands folded. I co-signed 2 loans, one for my parents' house, one for my sister's SUV. I've been paying them for 4 years. I just want out. He nodded slowly. You're not the first person to be exploited under the label of family. He slid a stack of papers toward me. If you can prove you hold no ownership or financial interest in their property, we can begin the liability release process. You'll also have the option to freeze joint credit access. I handed him the folder I'd brought. Lease agreements, pay stubs, email correspondence. Even an old message from Mom that read, "The house is ours. You just helped sign." Mr. Harrison read silently, then looked up. "Everything we need is right here." He picked up his phone and called legal. "Let's start the release process for Tiana Caldwell. Co-borrower removal, effective immediately." The sound of his pen clicking was small, but to me, it felt seismic. My hands trembled as I signed. Each signature felt like cutting another invisible rope that had bound me for years. When he stamped the final page, the thud echoed through the room. He looked at me kindly. "You did the right thing, Miss Caldwell. Sometimes protecting yourself is the only way to teach others to respect you." Outside, The wind bit cold against my face, but my chest felt lighter than it had in years. I stopped at a coffee shop on the corner. When the barista handed me a vanilla latte, she smiled. "Have a good day." I met her eyes and said something I hadn't been able to say, and mean, in years. "I will." That evening, as I cooked spaghetti in my small kitchen, my phone buzzed again. This time, the family group chat glowed on the screen. "How dare you ruin our credit? You're heartless. You'll regret this." I typed one calm line. "I just stopped paying for people who laughed when my cake hit the floor." Then I pressed send and set the phone down. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was freedom. 3 days passed before the knock came. It was sharp, angry, relentless, each pound vibrating through the thin walls of my Denver apartment. I froze mid-step, the pot of boiling pasta hissing behind me. My stomach twisted with cold certainty even before I checked the video intercom. On the screen stood my mother and Kelsey. Two faces I knew by heart, now warped with fury. Mom's lips were pressed into a thin line, arms crossed like she was preparing to deliver a lecture. Kelsey's eyes were bloodshot, mascara smudged, her denim jacket hanging crooked off one shoulder. "Tiana." Mom's voice cut through the door, high and trembling. "Open this door right now. We need to talk. What did you do with the bank?" I didn't move. The hallway camera showed them shifting foot to foot, glancing around nervously as neighbors peeked through doorways. Kelsey's voice rose, shrill, desperate. "You ruined everything. The bank froze our accounts. Mom's credit is destroyed. My Durango is about to be repossessed. You think this is funny?" Funny. The word stung, not because of what she said, but because that's how they'd treated me all my life. Like a joke. Like the strong one who didn't get to have feelings. I took a slow breath, steadied my voice, and turned on the voice recorder on my phone. "Denver Police Department," I whispered into the 911 app. Two individuals outside my apartment yelling and refusing to leave. "I'd like to report trespassing." "Do you know them?" the dispatcher asked. "Yes," I said quietly, eyes still fixed on the monitor. "They're my family. But today they're just people violating my boundaries." Outside, the pounding grew louder. Kelsey's fist slammed against the door. "Tiana, you're destroying this family. You think cutting us off makes you strong? You're selfish. You're heartless." Mom's voice cracked, half rage, half panic. "We're your parents. You don't treat family like enemies." 10 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights painted the hallway below. Two police officers appeared in the frame, one man, one woman. Calm. Professional. They approached my mother first. I watched through the intercom as Mom rushed toward them, pointing furiously at my door. "She's my daughter. She destroyed our finances. We just want to talk to her." Kelsey's voice broke into sobs. "She almost cost me my car. My fiancé is threatening to leave me because of her credit. She's heartless." The male officer raised a hand gently. This is private property. If she's asked you to leave, you need to leave." "She's my child." Mom shouted. "I have rights." The officer shook his head. "You have rights as a mother, but not the right to trespass on an adult's residence." The camera shook slightly as Kelsey backed away, her face collapsing into frustration. For a brief second, guilt brushed against me, light, fleeting, familiar. But then I remembered the frosting splattered across the deck. The laughter. The silence that followed. "No," I thought. "Not again." Through the speaker, I spoke quietly, just enough for the microphone to pick up. "If they act like intruders, then the line between family and boundary no longer exists." The officer turned toward the camera and nodded slightly, as if acknowledging my words without needing more explanation. He gestured toward the stairs. "This conversation is over. Let's go." Mom turned back to the door, her eyes burning with betrayal. "You'll regret this, Tiana. Blood doesn't disappear just because you say so." I didn't answer. The door stayed closed. They left under the dull flash of police lights, footsteps echoing down the stairwell, heavy, defeated, fading into the distance. When silence finally returned, It felt like oxygen flooding into a room that had been sealed shut for years. I slid down to the floor, my back against the wall, phone still recording. My hands trembled, but not from fear. From release. The audio kept playing, their voices, the pleading, the anger. I saved the file and named it, Boundaries. April 17, 2025. That night, I stood by the window, watching the city breathe beneath me. Cars glided past, headlights streaking across snow-dusted streets. Somewhere below, people laughed, ordered coffee, lived their lives. And in that quiet apartment, a family had just fallen apart, without a single scream. The next morning, my inbox flooded again, this time with messages I hadn't expected. A Facebook post from Mom. Big letters. Bold text. Sometimes the child you trust most betrays you the worst. Tiana stole from her parents and ruined our credit. Some people never learn gratitude. Below it were dozens of comments from old neighbors, relatives, people I barely remembered. So ungrateful. Poor Beverly, after everything she's done. And then one that twisted the knife. I heard she used her parents' money to buy that apartment in Denver. I stared at the screen. The old me would have panicked, written long explanations, begged people to believe me. But now I just breathed. They were throwing fire, but I refused to burn. Instead, I opened a new email, short, measured, professional. Hi team. If you see rumors about me online, please ignore them. Some people fight boundaries with lies. I'm fine and appreciate your professionalism and privacy. Tiana. Then I closed my laptop. The truth doesn't need shouting. It only needs time. 3 days later, an envelope arrived at my office. The letterhead read, Mountain Ridge Credit Union. Inside was a document signed by Mr. Harrison. This letter confirms that Miss Tiana Caldwell has been fully released from all liabilities concerning the joint mortgage and vehicle loan under the names of Beverly and Kelsey Caldwell. The seal, embossed gold at the bottom, shimmered under the fluorescent lights. My fingers brushed across the paper, tracing the curve of my signature. The moment everything changed. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. That evening, the Facebook post disappeared. Maybe someone told Mom the truth. Maybe the bank called to verify facts. I didn't care. The damage didn't matter anymore, because I'd stopped living for their approval. Still, my phone buzzed again. A message from a number I hadn't saved in months. You'll pay for this, Tiana. You think you've won? I smiled faintly. Winning wasn't the point. Freedom was. I stood by the window, the Denver skyline stretching out like a map of second chances. The air smelled like snow and coffee, sharp and clean. For the first time, I felt unchained. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's the sound of power finally speaking for itself. Weeks passed, and the noise finally died. No more late-night calls. No more Facebook whispers. The silence that once terrified me now felt like peace. I focused on my work at TechWave Solutions, finishing a project that landed me a quiet promotion. My manager, Jonathan, said during a meeting, Tiana, you lead with steadiness. People trust that. It was the first time anyone had said those words to me without a hint of obligation attached. At home, life found a rhythm. Yoga at sunrise, soup simmering in the evenings, laughter with friends who saw me, not what I could offer. My friend Paige brought sunflowers one weekend. Another friend, Trevor, teased me about the cactus on my windowsill, saying, It looks like you, calm, but don't touch. Then one morning, I received an email from Mr. Harrison with a photo attached, my release document, framed in the bank's compliance office. We use it as an example of boundary protection, his message read. I smiled, sipping coffee by the window. For once, I wasn't someone's safety net or silent backbone. I was just Tiana, whole, free, finally belonging to myself. A year later, my phone lit up with a single message from Kelsey. I'm sorry for everything. No excuses. No explanations. Just 4 quiet words. I stared at it for a while, then set the phone down without replying. Forgiveness, I realized, doesn't always mean reopening the door. Sometimes it's closing it gently, and walking away in peace. Outside, the mountains glowed purple under the evening light, calm and endless. I breathed in the Denver air, cool and alive, and whispered, "Welcome home, Tiana."